Good evening, my viewers. This is George on deck, and tonight I have the two tax watchdogs of northern Westchester, Mr. Ed Ciffone, the Yorktown tax watchdog, and George on deck, the Peekskill tax watchdog.
Well, nice to meet you, George.
Nice
the
to
watchdog.
see you again, watchdog.
Right.
How's things going there?
Hey, we've been fighting.
The
for a
main
year.
thing is, how are you feeling and how are you coming along health-wise?
Well, I did from August to beginning of December with my treatments, and they're all over. So I'm just hoping that I have to take a PAT test. It's a scan of my whole body. If it comes clear, that's it, and I'm done.
Well, we've all been praying for you to
Yeah.
beat that little problem you had
Yeah,
there,
because
Ed.
it was really something. I don't want anybody to go through all that chemotherapy.
Right.
It's tough.
But, Ed, we have big breaking tax news tonight
Yeah,
that
so-
many people don't know about this. And it was in the Journal News last week, and maybe I'll let you...
Yeah, George, this is amazing because this is about veterans benefits.
Yes.
Besides the STAR program.
And we're both veterans.
Veterans, right. And that it's up to the school districts to put this in. They have to make a resolution, and it'll be a tax relief for veterans who are veterans. I think it's 15%.
15%.
Right, and you
if
get-
they served in any branch of service and if they're veterans. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what it says.
They didn't even have to serve in a combat zone. It's a school tax break, did you say?
Yeah, it's 15%. That's a large percentage. And then if you are
Combat zone,
yeah, it's 10%
another
more.
10%.
And then if you're injured, it's even more, right?
I think
this
it's
is really hard to see,
Yeah,
George.
it
but-
was in the Journal News,
Yeah.
and they made a copy of it, but they didn't make
Yeah.
a good copy.
Yeah, I went down to the assessor's office today
In Yorktown?
yeah, and asked them about it. And the one lady said it was passed, okay, but the school boards have to have this resolution in order to get the benefit. And then it may come out in 2016. You know, they'll have to vote on it this year in May, and then you'll get it.
But what happens if the school boards don't vote on it and us veterans just let them slide? Do you
Well,
think we
George-
should become active? Let's
Well-
do it tonight.
Yeah, well, George,
Anyone watching this show, anyone who's a veteran,
Right.
who's a homeowner in Yorktown or Peekskill or Cortland or anywhere, they should call their school board tomorrow, and what should they do, Ed?
Right, and you should also call me at 914-245-1018.
Right.
And I have a whole group of people, United Taxpayers of Yorktown, which I'm president of. You don't have to be a veteran, but
Right.
you get people up there.
Right.
And that's what I'll try to do. And I'll go to the local VFWs and legions to
Right.
get people there.
And I'll do the same thing in Peekskill.
Yeah, 'cause
What this is, from what I read, Eddie, Governor Cuomo and the state legislature, both houses, passed this.
Right, they passed it already. Yep.
But your local school board has to opt in by bringing it up for a resolution and voting for it.
Right. Well, every year they vote on the senior exemption from the state. That goes up every year based on income. And if you're underneath that income, you get a good tax, almost 50% off.
Again,
So this is, you have to vote again, the same way as
this has nothing to do with income
No,
or
right.
or with the STAR program. This is an additional benefit for veterans.
No, well, George, this is going to cost a fortune,
Yeah.
okay, for the school districts.
All right.
All right? So they're going to have to make that decision.
Right.
But we're going to have to be activated.
Not necessarily a fortune. It'll cost if there's a lot of veterans in that district. If
Right.
there's not many veterans, it could be very little that the other people would have
Well-
to pick up the additional
Well, there's a lot of
cost
veterans
on.
coming out of the service now, you know, and been in the service all these years. So
Okay, but I'm hearing now only 1% of Americans are in the service or something like that. And that's why you're not hearing about the tremendous expenditures of the Afghanistan and the Iraq war.
wars, right?
And that brings me up to another breaking news story, Ed.
What's that?
Congress this week put a bill to the president that they can save $6 billion. And you know how, Eddie? By cutting 1% of the cost of living on veterans' benefits, pensions, and disabled veterans' pensions up to the age of 62. It was passed by Congress already, both houses. Many of the Tea Party Republicans were behind this. Eddie, I'm a Republican, but I think the Tea Party Republicans are too extreme and may have cost us the national election last time. And Eddie, it's wrong to take from the veterans who got disabled, wounded, or gave their time for their country. Why instead, Eddie, don't they take $3 billion from aid to Pakistan and spend $3 billion less in Afghanistan and leave veterans' pensions alone? Do you agree with that,
I agree
Ed?
100%. 100%.
And I'm very vehement on that.
Because, a lot of these bills, they group things together, okay? And then they vote for the whole thing.
Right.
But then they have to pick the ones that shouldn't be in there.
And you know what
So
the threat is if the president doesn't sign it?
Right.
These Tea Party Republicans would let the country go bankrupt. And what does that do to our credit rating?
We are bankrupt. It's almost $20 trillion already.
Well,
Give me a
that's
break.
true. That's true.
Those guys were right
But
about
why
Obama plan. Listen, those guys were right. Look,
Yeah.
they stopped.
Well, there's a lot of holes in that, I'll agree.
Yeah, but listen, you see what happened after they try to stop the government from, spending so much money. Okay, they adopted a budget now. After 4 years, the Democrats
And the Republicans.
never had a budget for so long. But listen, George, that's the top government that we should talk about.
Yeah.
Is Obama. Okay.
Obama.
Yeah, because
And the
this-
Congress.
and
The
the
Congress
and the
passes it.
And the Congress. Okay. So they
Ed,
haven't.
Ed, let's talk about the expenditures for the Afghan war and the military-industrial complex. Sometimes they spend $200 or $300 million on a project, and they never use the plane or whatever it is in a war. Is that a necessary expense, do you think?
No, but that's what gets down to corruption, and that nobody gives a damn. It all depends on the media. If you have the media really hit, maybe something gets done. But look at Obama, the IRS stuff, nothing happened. The what was that? What would the guy hold with the gun? Fast and Furious. We gave the guns to the drug addicts and killed our own people. And then you had the NSA, the security agency, spying on people. Nothing happens to me. And then they take the Fifth Amendment. When they go in front of Congress, give me, George, this is what kills me, George. And
then you have the governor of New Jersey, it just came out today, that he may have spent $25 million of funds from the federal government earmarked for victims of Sandy to put his face on the TV screen. And he takes up about 3 TV screens. Maybe that's why it was so expensive, Ed. And what's this other one? Closing down the George Washington Bridge to spite a Democratic mayor because he didn't vote for him. Is that true, Ed?
Yeah,
We're
that's
both Republicans. It doesn't sound good.
Nothing amazes me anymore.
And he's the same guy who praised President Obama for helping him rebuild New Jersey. Yeah, $25 million went to his TV advertising fund, it looks.
George, let's get closer to home.
Yes, let's get close
Listen,
to home.
we're tax activists. Listen.
Yes, both of us.
Now, for those people who have the STAR program, up to $500,000 can get basic, no matter
Right.
what age you are, okay?
Up to 500,000.
Okay? Now, to get enhanced, that means even more, 45% of your school taxes. Now, if you have to make less income, $81,900. It moved up from
That's adjusted gross income, too.
Yeah, right. So that moved up.
Ed, you don't know the amount of people I know who are a little bit wealthy who say, "Oh, what can my accountant do to just get me under that 81,000?" I've heard that.
Well, the answer is that you take if you're working, you take your IRAs out. The IRAs bring that down.
So in other words, you're supposed to screw the tax department, huh, and
Well,
pay less
look,
taxes.
George,
I hate to
what-
use that language.
What did you learn about being a tax activist? Okay, you got to bring out this information to people, and they got to justify whether they're doing it or not. Okay, this is the government gives you permission to save money.
And Ed, there's a hole in that enhanced STAR program. It's based on adjusted gross income.
Right.
Eddie, suppose you own 10 real estate properties, but you're not earning any money. You just own 10
right, I
properties.
understand. Okay.
On one of them, you're still allowed to do that They could be worth $10 million, and you're allowed to have a tax deduction?
Well, that's why New York State this year made everybody under basic file a special paper. Okay,
Yeah, I
because
see
of all
that.
that fraud that was going on.
But
here.
that isn't fraud. That's they're
Yeah.
allowed to do that under this
Wow.
current bill.
Wow, that's-
And
that's
didn't the governor pass something? Wait do you hear this one, Eddie? You think I'm just going after one party here? Governor Cuomo passed something where if you're making under $300,000, and that's not poor, and you have 2 kids, you get a check from the state for $500. Now, Eddie, you're making under 300,000. I'm making,
Wow.
but we don't have 2 little kids, so we don't get the check for $500.
This is all new to me, George.
That's
Why you're the watchdog, and you
you're
see
a
something.
watchdog. Well, I'm the senior watchdog.
That's it. And we
I
find
started
out,
23 years ago. When did you start in Yorktown?
actually 23 years
Oh,
ago,
we're about the
1990.
same time.
1990.
I started when Dr. Sal Corder in Peekskill was going to raise our taxes 21%, Eddie.
Wow. I think I worked for that guy. I was a substitute teacher at
Really?
Peekskill.
Yeah, he put
For
the
12 years.
busing in Peekskill, I remember.
Okay.
And these school superintendents really know how to spend money. For example, there's a court case going on now with a school assistant principal. I know I probably am not supposed to comment on this. It said it appears $800,000 is missing, but there's something in his contract that he has to get paid until he's convicted and guilty. Ed, I'm asking you, in private enterprise, if you were an accountant in a company and $800,000 was missing and it was tied to you, would you get a paycheck every week? Maybe that's why our taxes are so high,
That's
Ed.
the school system again. They get all these benefits.
Oh,
you know?
that's the school
Yeah,
system.
the old school system.
Doesn't
let's,
have-
Let's talk about the school system.
Does it have anything with lobbyists going up to Albany from the UT, not the UT,
Why, that's us.
no,
The teachers union,
the
yeah.
teachers union,
Yeah, right.
and making big donations to all the legislators up there, and then these little sweetheart clauses get put in. Teachers don't get an increase, but what people don't know, they get a step increase every year. What's a step increase?
Okay. Well, in Yorktown, you have
Yeah.
16 steps. And out of the 16, 14, you get almost an 8% increase.
What?
Yeah. It's really a 4%, but they've been getting an increase with their pay anyway. So in the past, it's been like 8% for those 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
So they start off low, maybe 65,000, but now they're making 130. The teachers.
They're making 130.
Yeah, after
Hey,
so many
Ed,
years.
I like something Governor Christie proposed yesterday, so I'm not against Governor Christie, you'll see. Longer school year and longer school day. Eddie, like today, there was a little ice on the ground early in the morning.
Yeah, 2 hours.
Delayed start. All right, they got to put in 180 days, right? But how many of them are full days now?
Right,
And are the kids getting the full bang for the buck, you know? If their grades aren't higher, like in Peekskill, their academic grades, maybe the teacher should be required to do a certain amount of hours per year, as per Governor Christie, not a certain amount of days per year.
Well, getting back to the federal government, they just put
Yes.
something called the Common Core.
I've heard about that.
It's a special
I don't know
education
much
program
about
from
that,
the
Ed.
government.
You talk about that
It's a
now.
special education from the government that overrides the teachers, what they used to teach in school.
Oh,
So
wow.
they got to teach a certain curriculum from the federal government.
That doesn't sound good.
Testing from the 3rd grade to the 8th grade.
Wow.
And most of them teach just for the test, and then and it's not subsidized by the federal government. It's subsidized by the taxpayers locally. So Lakeland's against it, and there was other programs, Race to the Top. That was another one that Yorktown dropped out of and Lakeland dropped out of. It came with no funds. They have to do these things, but with no money.
But what is it? A form of
Yeah,
testing whether the teachers
it's-
are teaching basic curriculum in their classes?
They
Is
have
that
to
what it
teach
is?
this curriculum that the federal government
That
is
the
spring-
federal government
Yeah,
mandates.
right.
It's like a state mandate, which you don't like state
Oh, I hate those.
mandates, right?
See, this is almost like the affordable housing in Westchester County.
you have
where-
that in Yorktown now, I hear,
Oh,
going up.
we got plenty of affordable housing. But it's almost the same way. The federal government is telling the local government that you have to change the zoning. So it's the same thing telling the teachers, you taught this way all your life, you can't teach this way anymore. This is what you got to do.
Wow.
And what's happening in York, they want to bring in kindergarten full time.
Wow.
Because they don't have enough time to teach these kids this new Common Core.
Okay.
So I don't know what they're going to teach them. How to do more of the alphabet or put the blocks up. But 43 years I lived in Yorktown. It's been half a day, and it does fine. So, George, listen, you're right. There's so many things happening. George, let's tell the people about this. Look, I see this here. That looks like you. How many years ago was that?
Let's see, 1966.
1966, okay. You were born
47 years ago, Ed?
Yeah. Oh, you were born in 1942.
Yeah.
You served
Where did
in
I
the
serve?
Army.
Where did I serve, Ed?
Okay, the 71st Medical Evac Field Hospital in Central Highlands in Vietnam in 1967, until you were injured by rocket attacks during the Tet Offense.
That's the most famous battle of the Vietnam War, by the way.
Yeah, so
I was injured very badly in basic training. I fractured a leg, Eddie.
Oh.
In spite of that, I still went to Vietnam. Was supposed to be a medic, but I became company clerk at a field hospital.
Well, I was a medic too in the Army.
And we were hit twice with direct fire during rocket attacks. The second time I was injured, re-injured.
Oh, okay. So this was Greg Ball gave you a special salute.
Into the State Veterans Hall of Fame.
Oh,
and you
wow.
can be sure Mr. Ball would check something out like this before he would give somebody an honor, wouldn't you think, Eddie?
Yeah, so again with the veterans,
But wait a
you know, you got injured.
Right.
These other people come home with no limbs.
Oh, yeah.
Really, really bad, you know?
Yeah. They deserve everything they get.
Right. And that's...
That's why I never put in for a Purple Heart, by the way, Eddie.
Why?
I felt I didn't have my leg blown off or my neck blown off or my arm blown off, that other people deserved it more than me.
Yeah, but that's...
But I don't know, maybe your unit was supposed to do that.
See, you
I
were
may
in
still
Vietnam.
look into
I was
that.
during that time period, 65 to 67. But I was really lucky. I was a medic also, and they called Vietnam,
You're
Germany.
a Vietnam era veteran.
And, right, era veteran, yeah. So I went to Germany. Then we got to Germany, they took everybody that had more than 12 months. I didn't have more than 12 months, so I stayed there. They took 100 guys and they left 60. So I went home and got married.
Going back to our last show, again, with veterans.
Yeah, you can.
You have people now who served the veterans, I hear. Didn't somebody in your family get an honor for...
Oh, my son, yeah. My son volunteers down in Pleasantville for the veterans in their organization. He drives them around to different events and tries to help them out. So that was really nice. And my granddaughter at her school in Connecticut had the veterans of all the kids that are in school. So she introduced me as grandfather.
Well, Eddie, the sacrifice my family makes, my grandson is in Palm Beach, California, in the advanced Marine base they have there.
Oh, okay.
And his sister's husband is in Afghanistan. He's got 4 months to go. And I'm just a proud father, great-grandfather last month of his child. And he was able to see that from Afghanistan on this newfangled thing.
Yep.
What do you call that, Skype?
Yeah, Skype, yeah, it's great.
We were lucky to get a letter with dust on
Yeah,
it
that's
a
it.
week or two later, right?
Right,
With a
right,
K
right.
ration or something.
Well, that's great.
But Eddie, everyone who served honors this American flag. What do you
George, how
feel?
about in Peekskill? Because you were on my show. Did they ever put up the flag?
I'm very disappointed, Ed. January the 1st, we had a new mayor coming in Peekskill.
Right.
And I really thought a flag would be put on the top of City Hall that day. Because we have a historic building, was built in 1940, and there's a historic flagpole on top of it. And as you know, I've had 1 or 2 demonstrations with veterans, but it always fell on deaf ears with the old administration. But unfortunately, we still have a 4-3 Democratic majority in Peekskill of Democrats over Republicans. And the new deputy mayor, who was a Air Force medic, doesn't require this flag to be flown on top of City Hall. They seem to have told the new mayor, oh, it's okay to have the flag flying lower alongside another flag, and that it would be too much work or too much trouble. What do you think of that? Too much work or too much trouble
that
to
Frank
put a
County-
lighted flag on top of the historic building in City Hall, Peekskill?
Yeah, that's crazy. You do it, you get it done, you make everybody happy, and that's it.
Does that cost them much money?
No.
Oh, we have a DPW force in Peekskill who does 10% less garbage pickups because the old mayor mandated that 700 condo units had to be done by private garbage or pay an outrageous sum to the city. So we went for the carting companies. Them same men, one of them can't go up in a cherry picker and put that. The city manager who just got a 5-year
puts the lights up.
Eddie, the city manager who just got a 5-year contract for $145,000 a year couldn't give the order to the DPW commissioner to have that flag put. You know what? I think it's going to take a demonstration by the end of January by all veterans throughout the county in Peekskill to get that flag put up.
Okay. Well, you let me know, and I'll be there.
Okay, well, can I count you
Yep,
on?
and I'll have more hair by then, I'm sure, so that's it.
But
But listen, what happened in Peekskill, too, now, they had a justice of the peace who's been there for 20 years. Judge, was it Marr? And, again, the Democratic Party
yeah, who said they would work with the new mayor,
got
outvoted him 4-3 on the first day of the new year, and they say they're working with the mayor.
So that guy's out, and they put a new guy in. I don't know how qualified he is,
and
but
you know, the
10
guy
years.
who went out, he only needed a year and a half more for a full retirement, Eddie. Isn't that a shame, too?
Oh, wow.
What? You know, I heard that the new mayor and council didn't even have time to interview the people because the vote was made on January 1st. They got and not only that, for the first time in history, Eddie, we have a mayor who couldn't pick his own deputy mayor in Peekskill.
What? He can't pick his own mayor?
No,
Deputy
the
mayor?
4 Democrats decided the longest-standing Democrat, Drew Claxton, is the new deputy mayor.
Oh, wow.
And that they will work with the Republicans, but already on the first 2 votes, they outvoted them. Is this the will of the people?
Did you hear about
Eddie, let me finish
go
on.
ahead.
That's my hometown now.
All right, go ahead.
They outvoted 3 of the incumbents, including the mayor, and they had a 3-1 majority of Democrats over Republicans to a new mayor and a new direction, 2 new council people. Mm-hmm. But it appears thus far that that Democratic majority isn't listening to the will of the people, that they want a new direction.
Well, listen, this is politics at
It
its
is.
worst. Now, I don't know if you knew about the controller in Yorktown who got fired and let go and
I
went
think
down
her
to
name was Jones.
yeah, Joan
I don't know
Goldberg.
much about her.
Goldberg.
Yeah.
So she goes to North Castle. They give her a job. Okay. Now the Republicans win. Okay, the election. As the Democrats go out, they fire her. Okay, they fire this lady that's doing a good job. Okay, and the Republicans in, they just rehired her back. Now what kind
So
of
everything is just politics?
politics?
then?
That's what I'm saying. No matter what the person, how good she is or how bad she is, and it was just a majority vote.
And Ed, you brought up something to me before the show about freedom of speech in America and at public meetings. Is there something you want to talk about freedom of speech in Yorktown?
Well,
I may want to speak to it about Peekskill as well.
we had a whole demonstration. We had this guy, Robert Friedman. We put together a thing up in Mayapack. And he says, you have no rights whatsoever. You have no rights whatsoever.
In America, you have no rights to speak at a public meeting.
Right, because in a public meeting, they can allow you to listen, but they don't have to allow you to speak. And then if they allow you to speak, you can speak on good things or bad things, you know. But in Yorktown, at the school board, they wrote a resolution saying you can't talk about bad things or anybody. Can you imagine that? It was one of the 10 things. And you can't bring signs, you can't do this, you can't do that. But the thing is, George.
Oh, you know what they were afraid of me at the last
okay,
meeting? Ed?
what'd you
This
do?
is going to make you laugh. You
what'd
heard
you-
about the duck incident when I supported the Canadian geese.
Okay, I
At
know
the
you. Uh-huh.
last meeting that I went to under the old mayor, I was stopped by at the door. By the way, I'm very proud the new mayor doesn't have police officers at our meetings anymore.
Oh, good. Oh, that's
and
good.
doesn't have an official 3-minute limit
Yeah,
anymore.
but you told me you talked for 10 minutes, George.
Yeah.
You know, you got to give him a break.
But there were only 3 speakers
I don't
there.
care, George.
Okay,
You know,
all right,
you got to
okay.
lighten up a little
so
bit.
that's okay.
Yeah, so
that's a lot better than what we had before.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
But I was stopped because I had a bag in my hand, and
Oh.
the uniformed officer asked me, "What's in the bag?" I says, "My wife's dinner." Why? I had to cut short a Christmas party I was going to because I'm a civic-minded citizen. Oh, that's okay, as long as you don't have that Canadian goose or duck with you.
Yeah, the
I mean,
Canada
you-
geese. What did
You
you
can't
do?
bring a prop with you to a meeting. We learned in Speech 101 the way to get your point across is to bring a prop with
Right,
you.
right,
I
exactly.
hear in your town you bring signs.
Right, the
I
last
bet
guy.
we would be stopped for bringing a sign into
Well, the
us.
last guy brought his sign was Nick DiTomaso. You know Nick, right?
Yeah, I don't really want to get into
Well,
that incident.
but he
I
put
heard
the
about it.
sign up,
And there was some kind of
and he got
incident.
shoved around by the cameraman.
I heard something.
It's just
about it.
unbelievable. He's 83 years old. But that he shouldn't have done that. The cameraman should have been arrested.
Did he provoke him in any
No,
way?
no, no.
You
but-
sure about
Yep.
that?
And the police.
Because I don't
and
really
the police.
want to get into that. Ed.
They investigated for 8 months.
Really?
He should have been locked up that night. So anyway, so
That's your opinion now.
no, that's what happened. It was right in front of everybody. But listen, it's who you know can work.
But
so,
weren't you
this-
stopped recently from speaking at all? They said there was no public speaking. You
Oh, it was funny. This is how they do it. They have courtesy of the floor in the beginning, courtesy of the floor at the end, if they have it, okay? But they had courtesy of the floor, and I got up to walk up, and he said, "We're closing courtesy of the floor." So,
Sounds undemocratic.
so I walked right out the door, and then I came back in. But like, so
But the
embarrassing.
question I ask, if people don't want to stick around all night to hear the people once or twice a month,
Right.
why did they run for the office for?
Exactly.
I mean, they're representing you, and you're telling me you can't talk, you can't bring a prop, you can't bring a goose or a duck with you. I
All right,
mean,
George, you only
what
gotta-
happens to them after they're elected?
Right. Well, that's what happens. We elect the people that are good people, and I know what changes
And
them.
I'm sure they all have good intentions.
So, George, I want to
I
appreciate
really
you.
wish the mayor and the new council a lot of luck. in
Yeah, we're
Peekskill.
one
and
short.
I hope the Democrats unite behind them for the good of Peekskill.
Okay.
With that, Tax Dog Eddie and Tax Dog George, onward and upward,
Right, let's get those veterans benefits for these guys at the school board.
and we will overcome, Eddie.
That's
a great
right.
man once said.
All right, George.
Power to the people.
Now listen.